finding itself quite alone. Russia, which I'm sure the Iranians wanted and thought would come to their help, really isn't. Russia is busy trying to occupy Ukraine and is suffering from its own endeavors and misfortunes, military ones. China seems not to be interested enough in order to jeopardize their own interest, and I'm quite sure that there's some behind-the-scenes deal that has been made between the US and China regarding export of oil in order to compensate for what the Chinese were buying illicitly from Iran before that. And currently, Iran, by its actions, by its aggression, they find themselves quite alone, and they are deepening their isolation by their actions. Doesn't look to be a very smart move, and all the charming and all the diplomatic rhetoric and all the propaganda that they'll be able to spin out won't undo that reality.
But the idea was to force, the idea of the preemptive strikes was to force or soften the Iranian regime enough that it would come back to the table. It's refusing to do so, despite the decapitation strikes, despite 50 or 60 of their top commanders gone, including the Ayatollah, and most of their leadership wiped out. They seem to be hunkering down. Why is this happening?
I don't know what you base the premise of the question on, that was the desired outcome or the intent. I don't think that it was. I think that the intent of this operation is to bring the Iranian regime to its knees and eventually make it so weak so that it can be overthrown by the Iranian people. That, I think, is the desired outcome. If the regime would be smart enough in its instincts of self-preservation to come to the Americans and say, okay, you know what? We won't enrich on Iranian soil. We will immediately stop firing ballistic missiles and producing them, and we will immediately cease in supporting terror organizations and building terror networks around Western Asia. I'm sure that the US would find that quite okay to make a deal and to say, okay, we'll call off the war. I doubt that the Iranian regime will do that because they are filled with hubris, with pride, and it's clouding their judgment. And from an Israeli perspective, what Israel is now pursuing, in my mind, way, way too late in terms of the amount of aggression that we have sustained from the Iranian regime over at least 3 decades. What Israel is doing now is finally returning and taking initiative against the Iranian regime and attacking them because they have been managing an indirect war against Israel and actively pursuing our destruction. And that's the framework. Will the Iranians come to the table and, plead for a ceasefire, capitulation? That will probably save them a lot of effort. I doubt that they will, and judging by what Larijani, last man standing or current man standing, is saying or tweeting, they're not inclined to do so.
Well, Colonel Conricus, what we're also seeing is that some of these Gulf countries that are aligned with America are now going into what is known as lockdown mode, economic lockdown mode. Can they sustain, or will they say, well, maybe if this stretches on a few too many days, we're going to start bleeding economically, the expats that came to work will feel a little uneasy, and perhaps their economic prospects might begin to dim? Is there a possibility that that could change calculations on the ground as far as Israel and America are concerned?
I think the Iranian regime will suffer more, bleed more economically and actually than what these countries will, and the amount of damage that the Iranian regime will sustain every day of this war is far more than what these Gulf countries will have to deal with. Granted, these countries are not battle-hardened. They do not have the DNA of fighters. They do not have the DNA of resilience. They have the DNA of oil-rich countries that have flourishing financial systems as a result of it, and it's a different culture. But at the end of the day, I think the balance of power here is one where every day that goes by, the Iranian regime will be weakened, its capabilities will be really limited in terms of what they can do. And I don't think that they can play a long and patient waiting game, because at the end of the fighting, there will be the Iranian people. The Iranian people, the moment the bombs stop flying, will in my assessment, take to the streets and seek to free themselves from the yoke of the Iranian regime and its oppression. So playing a waiting game, not entirely sure that that's a good strategy for the Iranians either.
Colonel Conricus, I have to ask you this because you said that there has been now air dominance that has been maintained by Israel and the United States. Yet we're seeing bases of the United States in Turkey and in Kirchik, even in Cyprus, where there was an attempt to knock out a British base. There have been obvious strikes on other US bases in the region. We don't quite know the extent of damage that they have sustained. How is this happening? How is Iran being able to sort of strike these targets? And of course, there has also been damage now in a few places in Israel, and we have those pictures in Beit Shemesh and other places. So what is making Iran capable of hitting or counter-reacting in this way?
Yeah, one issue doesn't necessarily have to do with the other. Aerial dominance is a fact. I think it would be very difficult to dispute that Israel and the US enjoy aerial dominance and superiority over Iranian skies. There are no effective air defense systems. The Russian S-300 systems have been taken out of commission long time ago by Israeli jets. Actually, most of them were destroyed in June last year, and the residual capabilities were wiped off by Israel and the US 2 days ago. So that's one thing that we can set aside. Their offensive capabilities, Iran's ability to fire missiles from bunkers, silos, all across Western Iran, mostly Western Iran, that still exists, and they do fire missiles and they dispatch drones from various bases. But every time they fire, those places are mapped by drones and by other aircraft that are currently constantly hovering above Iranian hovering in Iranian airspace. And the moment they fire, they become a target. And what we're seeing now is that the US and Israel are hunting missile launchers, and the sum of it will be that the longer the fighting will go on, based on the aerial dominance that the US and Israel enjoys, Israel and the US will be able to gradually degrade Iranian capabilities more and more. They already started at a weakened position, and they've been able to fire less than what was anticipated. And my assessment is that their capabilities will continue to be degraded more and more until very small or nominal. How long will that take? That's a business of days and weeks, I would assume, until most offensive Iranian capabilities have been dealt with. And maybe that's the despair and panic that we see in Iranian decision making, that they're lashing out, firing at Gulf countries, firing at civilians all across the Middle East, because they are understanding that they have very little time left to fire the missiles that they have.
So a couple of questions before I let you go. What is the timeline that we are looking at here? Could this become a protracted conflict, a battle of attrition? You might have Iran beginning to engage proxies. They could go asymmetric. Those are possibilities. We're already seeing visuals on our screen of how sympathetic in the Muslim world, in Pakistan, for example, elements sympathetic to Iran and its regime there are attacking US consulates. Tomorrow they might start attacking other US allies and their assets and consulates. So what is the timeline we're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, for you in India, it's definitely not a newsflash to see radical Muslims do crazy things, whether it's in Pakistan or on Indian soil, and that shouldn't come as a surprise. Timeline here, I think neither the US nor Israel want or need or aspire for a protracted conflict. What you can see is high-intensity military operations, aerial operations against the Iranian regime. And as anticipated, Iran's most important proxy organization that they spent 35, 40 years building, Hezbollah in Lebanon, has now joined in the fray. They are now dragging Lebanon into the war at the behest of the Iranian regime. By the way, much to the frustration of the democratically elected government in Lebanon, who are saying that Hezbollah's actions are reckless and are endangering Lebanon, which actually is very correct. And yes, you're right. There's the risk of Iran using other venues, terrorists, and other smaller capabilities in order to deflect. But that, I don't think it will make a meaningful strategic impact. And if we focus on the core issues here, what Israel and the US are doing now is gradually degrading the Iranian regime, its ability to manage, command and control and conduct military operations. And I think within not a very long period of time, those capabilities will be degraded to such an extent that the Iranian people can actually rise up without mortal fear and actually reclaim their country. Iran will try to, use terrorism and use the dirty tricks that they usually do, but that's not news. And both the US and Israel are prepared, battle-hardened for it. There may be surprises. The Hezbollah or other Iranian proxies may get something off and may surprise either of us. I hope that doesn't happen, but that's what happens in war. But we're prepared for that. But the bottom line, when we keep our focus on the big strategic picture here, is that the sand in the hourglass is running in a very clear direction, and it is not one that is in the favor of the Iranian regime.
So I just want you to accommodate a question or two from Tom Cooper, one of the world's leading military historians. He's here with us in our studio. He's a colleague. Tom Cooper, would you like to ask Colonel Conricus a couple of questions on some of the views that he has expressed?
Well, perhaps one would be the question of semantics. I'm curious to hear how comes that when somebody from Lebanon attacks Israel, that is aggression against Israel. When somebody from Syria attacks Israel, that is aggression on Israel. But when Israel attacks somebody else, then that is self-defense, but no aggression.
Attacks Ukraine, that's aggression. And just like when, and the basis for this, for instance, the Iranians have been conducting indirect and direct warfare against Israel for the better part of 30 years. They have fired ballistic missiles at our civilians. They have manned and funded terror organizations that have killed thousands of Israelis over the years and wounded many thousands. And they are openly saying and really trying to destroy the state of Israel. So when Israel takes military action against the Islamic Republic of Iran, it is within that context. You can go back, many years and spot the first act of Iranian aggression against Israel.
I tend to come back to many years ago because it is foremost Israeli historians and journalists who are publishing books writing about the beginnings of Hezbollah in Lebanon of the 1970s, late 1970s, Murabiton militia before Hezbollah, and they said they came into being. These Israeli historians, Israeli journalists say both of these militias came into being because of Israeli massacres on the Shia population of southern Lebanon. So how do you explain now that Iran has started this war?
I don't really follow your train of thought here, the connection between Hezbollah and what Israel is, the attack that Israel is
because
doing
the same journalists,
Iran.
It's very simple, because the same journalists and the same historians say that this is how Israel has started a secret war with Iran back in the early 1980s.
Oh, Israel started?
Yes.
By when militias and terrorists in Lebanon invaded into Israel in the early 1970s, attacked Israeli civilians. Israel responded by striking in Lebanon, and then afterwards Iran built a militia.
May I now use your words from earlier? You said this is a different war because you are now talking about Palestinians, while I'm talking about Shia population of southern Lebanon, which was killed by dozens by Israeli armed forces.
Yeah, yeah, I'm
and
talking
then
about Lebanon.
yes,
I'm
and you are
explaining
talking
the
about
context
Lebanon, but
which
I'm talking about Palestine. You are mixing Palestinians who were
Oh, no,
operating from
believe
Lebanon.
me, I'm not mixing anything.
Yeah, you are you very much do. And then there are
No,
Shia of
actually
southern
am not.
Lebanon.
And
There are
actually,
Shia of southern
clear.
Lebanon who have
Okay,
organized
listen,
themselves into
let's-
You're in the
Murabiton and then the
studio.
Hezbollah.
You're in the studio, so you have an obvious advantage over me, and we're not
Yeah,
going to
sure,
be able
it is
to
advantage,
speak over
yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
So I can happy, just if you want to ask a question, I can.
I'm
more than
asking you a
happy to
question.
answer it, but we can't have a debate because you're in studio.
I ask you a question. Why are you mixing Palestinian incursions into Israel of the early 1970s, avoiding to answer the question about Israeli massacres on Shia of southern Lebanon, and then not discussing the emergence of Murabiton and then the Hezbollah, and thus the start of the secret war between Israel and Iran, which was, according to Israeli historians and Israeli journalists, started by Israel.
Yeah, so I think you have it kind of flip side, upside down. The country, the nation state that has built terror organizations and equipped them and deployed them around our borders is Iran. Israel has not deployed any militia or terror organization in Azerbaijan, in Iraq, in Afghanistan or Pakistan.
So southern Lebanese
we don't
army
have
was
any
also
of-
not
Okay,
militia.
Hold on,
one at a time.
Hold on, please.
Yeah, one at a
Let
time.
me answer.
Yeah.
Let me answer. Israel has not done that. The country that has done that is Iran. Iran has a strategy formulated by the former supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, which is to build a ring of fire around Israel, equip different proxies, different useful idiots from the Iranian perspective, Lebanese Hezbollah, Gazan Hamas and Islamic Jihad, various jihadi organizations in Syria before Assad was removed, and various organizations in Iraq, and of course the Houthis in Yemen. The strategy that the Iranians built over the years was to build that ring of fire around Israel and to try to bleed Israel of internal cohesion, international support, to weaken it. And then when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, that was what was supposed to be the opening shot of the last war, the last campaign, the flood of Al-Aqsa against Israel, which is an Iranian strategy, and all of the Iranian proxies were supposed to join in the fight and defeat Israel. So the one that is conducting war is Iran. And what Israel is retaliating against that.
So, all of that we can discuss at another time. But the fact is, viewers, that the Israelis and the Americans are now quite sure that it's only a matter of time before there is going to be regime change in Iran. And that's the top headline coming out of this interview with Colonel Jonathan Conricus, because they are ready, as they are saying, to degrade the regime to the extent that the popular will of the people will rise up and complete the job, and therefore they will find liberation. Well, thank you, Colonel Conricus, for speaking with us. As always, it's great to speak with you. Stay safe.
Thank you.
We'll touch base at a later date. Thank you very much. Let me go straight across to Sanjay Suri, who joins me now from Israel. He's been covering this conflict. What's the latest coming out of Israel? We're seeing some pictures, and we also got a report from you from Beit Shemesh, where you were at the site of that synagogue that had been flattened out. What's the general information flow in Israel with regards to other strikes that might have been conducted, if at all? Sanjay.
Rahul, there is some concern within Israel that a lot of the Iranian missiles have been getting through. And that concern was, of course, understandably most keenly and most painfully expressed in Beit Shemesh, which I visited a short while back. And that's where we had the attack on the synagogue that you described. And there were people who were hiding in the shelter, and the shelter itself was blown up. That came a day after the missile that got through and hit Tel Aviv here, and a woman who was in her 40s was killed. Many were injured. An apartment block was almost demolished in that, brought down in that attack. There is some concern that these missiles have been getting through. We know that there has been a pattern in the June war of last year, where there was a rather low volume of missiles fired at first from Iran, and after some time they began to fire more. So at the moment, each is testing the defenses and the capacities of the other. Whether Iran is holding back from firing more, as we just heard, because they simply are holding back to their and strategizing this use, or they have just been degraded and blown up, or they've abandoned ship. We don't know yet, but it's too soon to say that the capacity is over. And this capacity will have a long tail, because if even just one remnant unit fires one missile days after we believe the war has ended, and that enters the airspace in UAE, there can be no plane taking off, and then they'll wait further. So the knock-on effect from these attacks on the economy of the UAE and of these countries is going to be serious, and it's looking long-term, and they are being attacked because Iran sees them as hosting their enemy.
So this is a war by other means, some would say, that is being waged by Iran, because clearly it knows that it's going to be completely knocked out of the skies. So it is using other means. It's using drones, which are relatively cheaper. It might even engage proxies. It could get very, very hot in the Gulf, viewers, for a large number of US allies, as Sanjay Suri has been saying. And one of those is Israel, who is that is being targeted. There's no doubt about the fact that there are now strikes on Israel. And here is a report from Sanjay Suri, sent just about an hour or two back from Beit Shemesh. Let's go straight across to that.
We are here in Beit Shemesh, and this here behind me was a synagogue. Would you believe it? There's no sign of it anymore. Complete devastation, a direct hit by a missile. People sought shelter below the synagogue in a dedicated shelter, and they were all killed. And with me is Ben, who has lived long here. He lives right next door to this. So Ben, were you here when the missile struck?
Yes, I was at my house. I was sleeping. It was around 2:30 p.m. And I wake up by horrific noise, horrific boom, like the most significant shock wave of boom that I heard in my life.
And the people who took shelter here, they of course live here. What kind of work do they do? I mean, do they work for the government, or are they just local civilian people?
No, Beit Shemesh is it's a city of normal people, regular people. You know, white collars, blue collars people.
But
Yes.
tell me, the people who died here, they had gone to the synagogue. Underneath the synagogue is a dedicated shelter.
Yes.
They took shelter, they went into the shelter, and
Yes.
still they were killed. So a shelter is not necessarily safe.
That's true what you said. The statistics in this case is really, really cruel, because the chance of that is less than 1%, I believe. But the problem, it was a direct hit. Where they went is perfectly fine. They did everything that they could do. They didn't neglect the situation. They didn't disrespect it. They went to the safe place underneath. But the problem, the missile was directly hit.
Yeah. So finally, not even a shelter is safe from a direct hit.
Yes, from a direct hit. And people like the military department who are responsible on the civil life, it's called Pikuda Oref, they say that if it's a direct hit, it's a big problem. This is a military aircraft jet. It could be F-15, F-16, F-35, that options. Especially when you hear this kind of sound, which means it goes really fast. It's not helicopter, it's not something like that. About this incident, from what I've read, the situation is that they're saying they launched the wrong system. Apparently, they launched not the Arrow, they launched David Sling, and it wasn't enough to catch it. They launched 2 missiles to catch the flight to catch the missile that was bombed here, but they didn't catch it.
So there was some error in defense as well.
A human error, yeah.
What was here? Can you just describe this place to me?
Yes. So, let's say from over here to over there, it was the synagogue. Here you have one private house, as you can see. Here you have another one. Over there you have another one. Over there where you see I think it's olive tree, there was another house. You don't see any wreckage of it. It depends, the amount of destruction depends on how old is the house. If it's really old, then as like here, you see the differences? The destruction is much more bigger. Here it's more modern house. You can recognize by the Jerusalem stone that cover the house, and it's more endurable to sustain earthquakes, missiles, fires, and so on.
Right.
That's exactly the point that we've also been discussing, and Tom was also saying that the target is meant to be these US assets in these ally countries, but because these are densely populated areas, they are inadvertently hitting civilian targets, because if civilians were indeed the target, the casualties could have been in hundreds.
That is, to use the American terminology, collateral damage.
Right, right. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, the sheer escalatory nature of this, as Ambassador Dogra was also highlighting, they've gone on to ask for Germany's help. They're also trying to involve France over here, because, say, UK has already reacted. In fact, Sir Keir Starmer also spoke about their fleet being involved. But if NATO were to get involved, what is the end game of this war? If NATO and these Middle Eastern US allies were to get involved, what happens?
While
and
I
Iran
think,
has already indicated that they are not looking towards any negotiations now.
Yeah, Kansha, it's too early for Iranians to talk about negotiations. It's just, again, this is something, not a war which is being fought between two street people. That also goes for a very long time. We are fighting a war with two military powers and two nations and two ideologies which are totally disparate and different. And it's about survival of Iranian regime's thought process, which is absolutely contrarian to this thing. While the Gulf states have already changed their thought process and they have aligned to the Western ideology to a great extent, but Iranians are totally polar opposite, and they have never changed their views for the last about 45-50 years. They remain where they remain. So to believe that it's going to just crumble, IRGC is not just not a slap dog onto a street that they can wish away. They will fight, they will control, and this will go on for some time. But I just want to add both the countries, the Israelis and Americans, and a lot of times people are saying that Trump has put Israel first this time. I don't think so. I think it's a war of Americans with Iran, and it is something to do with the Chinese. It is just not about Iran itself.
Yes,
So
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, so I think I told last time also on your on your channel, but American immediate political objective is to change the strategic orientation of Iran. They should give up the ballistic missile systems, and because that was threat not only to America but more importantly to Gulf states eventually. So if you recall, while Saudi Crown Prince has said about a month back they will not allow their own airspace and ground to be attacked for Iran. But the fact of the matter is that he was the one who went urging, and Trump has said as much, that he came to me and telling this is going to be eventually a challenge. Because when the ballistic missile numbers, which in 2027 they were aiming to make to 8,000, that crosses, and the speed of missile crosses, there was no way Saudis could have protected themselves. So that is one, I think they want to change. The second, they want to change orientation was about the nuclear ambition, with 440 kgs of uranium lying with them for 60% enriched. It was just a matter of time, I think, in a couple of months. Right? The process of integrating, process of weaponizing further takes time, but they would have had the capability to use nuclear weapons. So this was, I think, the Americans wanted. But look at it from the Iranian side. Iran is a sovereign nation. they wanted to have a weapon, nuclear weapons. When Pakistan, which is a terror state, known terror state, can have nuclear weapons and Americans can continue to engage with them, Israel can have in the region, why should not Iran have its own? So I think these were two polarized actions that are taking place, and both have their own mission, and therefore they are both legitimate to fight the war, even at the cost of regional.
Viewers, America might have plunged the Gulf into chaos, and there's big breaking news coming in, and I'm going to go straight across to Aman to get it. Aman, this is very big news that is coming through. We are being told that the Iranian media has made some astonishing claims.
Well, yes, Rahul, what we are learning is that Iran's IRGC is now making a big claim that in the latest missile strike, they have targeted the Prime Minister Netanyahu's compound. They are saying that the Israeli Air Force commander's location has also been targeted in a surprise attack by the IRGC, and they are claiming that Netanyahu's fate is unclear. They are saying that they have carried out a very surprise attack where Netanyahu was, and Netanyahu's future fate is uncertain. Has he survived? Has he not survived? That is the IRGC's claim, big claim coming in today after Israel's big strikes in which Kenamai was taken out.
Well, you know, viewers, there is a lot happening on the ground there. I'm going to bring in Tom Cooper in just a few moments, but I'm going to go straight across to Akanksha also. Let's go straight across to Akanksha. Let's get some news from Akanksha. Akanksha, you're here with us, and I want to come straight out to you. It's a long newsroom, but there is some news breaking about the U.S. Embassy.
So the biggest that we are getting right now is with regards to Netanyahu's office being bombed. This is at least what Iran is claiming, that their IRGC has managed to bomb them. At the same time, Rahul, we must keep in mind that there's already information doing the rounds that Netanyahu has left the country. He's headed either to Greece or Germany. The whereabouts of the Israeli Prime Minister are not known. You know that the British consulate has also been attacked. So Kuwait very much on the radar.
And the US embassy in Kuwait has been shut down because apparently that was also targeted.
Yes, and why just Kuwait? Look at the way Pakistan has in fact been responding. 20 protesters already dead. Their consulate officers over there were retaliating severely. US is currently on tenterhooks because their IRGC is very much digging in their grounds. In fact, there's a warning for the viewers over here. A lot of misinformation doing the rounds as we speak, because there's already viral videos showing how Iranian nuclear sites have been bombed on the other side. There's also a confirmation coming in from IAEA that the Iranian representative has shared information that there is enough damage being done to the Natanz nuclear facility, which means there could be very much risks of radioactive leakage taking place. What is the IAEA going to do about this? How is the UN going to respond? We'll have to see. The next few 48 hours are going to be extremely critical.
So what now we are being told, and I'm going to come into with Aman here, what we are being told, and let's walk through. Aman, what have you got with you?
This is, Rahul, the picture put out by the AFP. This is where the smoke is billowing out very near the US embassy in Kuwait. This is the picture that the AFP has put out and clicked by their own correspondent. This is why the US embassy in Kuwait has been shut down, and earlier in the day we saw those horrific visuals coming from the US consulate in Karachi, which was also attacked by people, and this was the exclusive visuals, in fact, that our internal security editor Manoj Gupta had brought us. Horrific visuals, you know, people being brought out, bloodied faces, one person was also being carried out, his body after he was shot. We believe that the US Marines had shot 20 Pakistanis dead for storming their consulate yesterday, and that is why today...
Yeah, there you're seeing it. There you're seeing some of those bloodied hands and faces and people shot and being carried out. You can see some of those pictures, those are dramatic pictures. And then, of course, let's just go back to the other photo of the Kuwait photo of the suspected attack on the US consulate there, and that's why the consulate is shut. Now, we don't know if there were people inside that consulate or not, but AFP putting out this photo of an area very close to the US consulate. Now, how are these missiles getting through if there is complete aerial dominance over Iran? One doesn't know. This is the question, viewers, because it is the Gulf countries, and let's talk about this. There are many Gulf countries that are facing a lot of heat, aren't they, Aman, because of these attacks. Let's go straight back to Tom Cooper, because I'm going to talk to him a little bit about that. We're going to also open the map. Viewers, this has been a war that could now turn into a bit of a quagmire for the United States. I know it's very early. I mean, it's very early to sort of talk about timelines, because it's only been 37, 38 hours. But the Americans were hoping. Yes, the Americans were hoping. The Americans were hoping that, look, at the end of the day, we were going to go in, we're going to knock out a few people, and that would be it. The Iranians would put their hands up and say, okay, sorry, we've come back to the table, and we're deciding to move with dialogue.
Well, that is the way Americans would have wanted it, but I think Iran is in for a long haul. Iran wants a long, protracted war, and that is why you see their strategy of bombing all the Middle East nations, and they're also attacking the US embassies because they see them also as a part of the US establishment in these countries. So after the various airports which were on attack, now we have the embassies of US also under attack from Iran.
Well, more news breaking, viewers, on your screens, that France is ready to defend the Gulf states and Jordan. So this is now becoming a problem for the Western world, viewers. These are countries in the Gulf that had actually begun to give bases, or their land for US bases, and they had allowed these Western nations to give them what is called a protective umbrella. Now, the Iranians have started hitting these countries. I'm not saying that there are massive damages, but some very tactical strikes. So on civilian infrastructure, as we have seen over the last few days, and Tom, let me bring you into this, because there has been information coming, and I'm going to pull out these pictures, and let's come to this map if it's possible for you to do so. We're going to look at these maps now, because this is Tel Aviv, isn't it? And we're being told that at least the Iranian media is claiming that the IRGC has reached this far and has struck a place where Netanyahu was having a meeting with his Air Force chief, so to speak, and that both are now sort of not around. So is this a wild claim? How could they have done it? Where would this missile have come from? And let's have a look at this first.
Well, I would guess. I can only guess. I don't know where exactly would this meeting have taken place. Somewhere in downtown Israel or further north, where there are big headquarters of the Mossad and Unit 8200, for example, which are frequently targeted by Iran already since 2 years. But I guess that the intelligence came actually from the Chinese again. They have so-called COMINT, this is communications intelligence, signals intelligence, ships underway in the Mediterranean, in the Indian Ocean, and so on. They are tracking the movement of US warships. They are tracking the movement, certainly, of Israeli warships. So they might have, for example, tracked down movement of Prime Minister Netanyahu.
So if you just open this map up.
Just for one more detail. Netanyahu is not a new target for Iranians, or actually for Hezbollah. Last year, Hezbollah attempted to hit his residence with a UAV.
I see.
And this was shot down shortly before reaching the residence. So, and he was in the residence in that moment. So it is possible that they have detected his movement in one way or the other. There are also sympathizers who might have reported, and so on and so on. So options are open.
So stay with me. Let's go straight across to Sanjay Suri. Sanjay Suri, thank you for joining us once again. I know difficult times, and there probably are air raid sirens sounding all around you from time to time. So thank you for taking this risk. But we're getting news that the Iranian media is claiming Iran's IRGC says that it has struck some locations where Netanyahu was meeting with one of his commanders, the commander of the Air Force, and that his whereabouts are no longer known. Now, is this what many people say PSYOPs? Is this deliberate disinformation warfare? What is going on here? What are you hearing in the Iranian media? Israeli media.
Well, we've seen these we have seen some social media posts floating around. There is no confirmation of this. So far, the indications are that this is a rumor, but we've only just come across this kind of suggestion that is being circulated. So no official word on this yet, no word in the Israeli media, no word in any media out of Israel on this as yet. This would be quite extraordinary if true. It would have taken a lot for this to happen. It would have been a very dramatic. It is unlikely to be a small little drone here. We would be looking at a hypersonic ballistic missile that would seek to deliver a blow like this. And we have seen no evidence of that as of now.
Okay, so we don't quite know. Mr. Dogra, let me bring you into this conversation. You heard Lieutenant Colonel Conricus at one time in the Gaza conflict. He was the voice of the military in Israel, and he was broadcasting quite often from Israel and giving us updates. He's quite confident that this war is a one-way street, that the Iranians have nothing in the tank, that after a point they're just going to wither away the regime and the people will overthrow it. How do you assess that claim?
Well, I don't want to assess a propaganda reportage. That is what your Israeli guest was doing. But let me come back to this news about the attack on the Israeli Prime Minister's office. The public memory is short, but if you remember in the earlier confrontation between Israel and Iran had struck the garden of Netanyahu's residence. It did not cause much damage, but to the question as to how Iran was able to reach his office presently, the answer is that yes, if Israel has the capability of finding out where Khamenei was, Iran too has some resources. And the proof is, if indeed this missile hit the office of Netanyahu, as it had hit one of the missiles or drones, had hit his residence in the previous.
Iranian sources be? Would it be Chinese? I've been seeing a lot of pictures on the internet of Chinese technology, which is now able to firmly focus on ships and exactly what those ships are carrying on the ground. Apparently, there is this photograph, I don't know if you've seen it, of one of the US aircraft carriers with their entire weaponry lined up. All the crafts are lined up, different types of crafts are lined up, and you can see almost every plane individually. It's very clearly visible. Would this be the Chinese that are supplying this data? Because that was a commercial satellite almost. It's open source. It's all there.
Well, China has been...
Go ahead.
China has been quite open about it. In fact, it has been posting photographs after photographs of various ships carrying armament, one of which was hit.
Yeah.
But in this case, the question you're particularly asking, I would not like to pinpoint that it was Chinese. It could very well be Iranian sympathizers among Palestinians or anyone else.
Anyone else? Yes. Yes.
Add one more thing.
Yeah.
Early this or late last year, an IDF officer was arrested for espionage for Iran.
Right.
For doing this for money.
Okay.
So it could be that this is a similar case.
Similar case. I just want you to also direct your attention to this photograph.
Yes, please.
Now, this photograph, can we just bring that photograph back, please? Thank you. That's the photograph. Now, we are being told that this is of the UK mission that was attacked. And this is an AFP photograph which shows some sort of a craft approaching this particular mission.
I can explain you. This would be Akrotiri on Cyprus.
Yes, Cyprus, that's right.
And this is a C-17 transport aircraft.
Okay.
So Akrotiri is on Cyprus, and it's a former British colony.
Yes.
And then they have retained some specific area of the island, and are using it ever since for military purposes.
So where would this be?
Just a second. Opa.
Yeah. There we
It's
go.
always a little bit.
It goes the other way.
Yes.
The Earth rotates. Even the map rotates. What a coincidence. There's Cyprus. Okay. So we're looking at this area, you're saying,
Just a second.
where this
I'm
particular...
searching for Akrotiri because I don't remember where exactly was it. This is quite a big part of the island. It's actually British military zone.
Yes.
So, is it down here?
There's something called cochlea
I'm
here.
searching for Akrotiri.
Okay, at Qatari. Anyhow, so we know that this has happened, and this is where we'll look for it, and we'll come to you in just a few moments. But you're saying that basically this is the area where this attack has taken place. So this military plane has flown all the way from Iran. Are you saying that?
I mean, not a military plane, but a missile.
Missile. Okay,
yes.
so this is a missile.
Apparently, 1 or 2 missiles were fired in that direction.
Right.
There are conflicting reports in regards whether they fell into the sea or whatever. The British wouldn't say more than that they have missed.
And they have missed. But clearly, something has happened because that British base is constantly looking under siege, viewers, and we're getting news now from there. And you also saw, of course, the other base in Kuwait that was struck apparently, or an area close to that, and that was the photo that Aman was showing on his phone, which we are going to bring out. We're going to take a very short break. We'll be right back with more updates, viewers, as this conflagration widens by the moment. We're right back. Don't go away.
That's exactly the point that we've also been discussing, and Tom was also saying that the target is meant to be these US assets in the these ally countries, but because these are densely populated areas, they are inadvertently hitting civilian targets, because if civilians were indeed the target, the casualties could have been in hundreds.
That is, to use the American terminology, collateral damage.
Right, right. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, the sheer escalatory nature of this, as Ambassador Dogra was also highlighting, they've gone on to ask for Germany's help. They're also trying to involve France over here because, say, UK has already reacted. In fact, Sir Keir Starmer also spoke about their fleet being involved. But if NATO were to get involved, what is the end game of this war? If NATO and these Middle Eastern US allies were to get involved, what happens?
So look, while
and
I
Iran
think,
has already indicated that they are not looking towards any negotiations now.
Yeah, Kansha, it's too early for Iranians to talk about negotiations. It's just, again, this is something, not a war which is being fought between two street people. That also goes for a very long time. We are fighting a war with two military powers and two nations and two ideologies which are totally disparate and different. And it's about survival of Iranian regime's thought process, which is absolutely contrarian to this thing. While the Gulf states have already changed their thought process and they have aligned to the Western ideology to a great extent, but Iranians are totally polar opposite and they have never changed their views for the last about 45-50 years. They remain where they remain. So to believe that it's going to just crumble, IRGC is not just not a slap dog onto a street that they can wish away. They will fight, they will control, and this will go on for some time. But I just want to add both the countries, the Israelis and Americans, and a lot of time people are saying that Trump has put Israel first this time. I don't think so. I think it's a war of Americans with Iran, and it is something to do with the Chinese. It is just not about Iran itself.
Yes,
so
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, so I think I told last time also on your on your channel, but American immediate political objective is to change the strategic orientation of Iran. They should give up the ballistic missile systems, and because that was threat not only to America but more importantly to Gulf states eventually. So if you recall, while Saudi Crown Prince has said about a month back they will not allow their own airspace and ground to be attacked for Iran. But the fact of the matter is that he was the one who went urging, and Trump has said as much, that he came to me and telling this is going to be eventually a challenge. Because when the ballistic missile numbers, which in 2027 they were aiming to make to 8,000, that crosses, and the speed of missile crosses, there was no way Saudis could have protected themselves. So that is one. I think they want to change. The second.
Well, viewers, big news coming through. Moment by moment, the updates are flowing into our studio. The Israel Air Force and the Israeli Navy have from what the latest news updates seem to suggest, intercepted dozens of drones launched at Israel from Iran. The IDF publishes footage showing a Navy warship shooting down a drone before reaching Israel's borders, and those are the pictures of the drone being taken apart by an Israeli warship. So where do you think this would have happened?
It is probably Haifa area, or in the south over Eilat. This is southernmost point in Israel. And the weapon used is probably going to be well known to quite a few Indian Air Force and Indian Army servicemen, because it's a Barak missile.
It's a Barak missile.
Yes.
How would you know it's a Barak missile?
Because this is the only SAM used by Israeli Navy.
I see. Well, that is a very, very interesting analysis there. Helps to have a military historian and military expert in the studio right next to you. In moments, you know what exactly is happening on the ground. And viewers, this is not the only place that the Iranians are looking at and targeting. I'm going to also show you some other inputs that we are getting. The US Embassy in Kuwait targeted by an Iranian drone, and I'm going to show you that picture. If we have that picture, there are also, of course, many more strikes. And if the Director Saab will now cooperate with me a little bit and show me all those pictures that we've been wanting to show you, viewers, for a while now. So can you show me all the pictures of all the multiple attacks here? So this is this US Embassy in Kuwait targeted by Iranian drones. That's what we are being told. What are we seeing here? This looks like quite a big amount of smoke.
Probably a car or something, a fire, or in the left lower corner.
That's right, here.
Yeah. You see the dark smoke.
Yes. So this is a car.
Even further left, behind this mold.
Okay,
yes.
Right. Okay, so that you think is a car.
I guess it's a there or something similar, something that is containing plastic and therefore smoking.
And what is all of this?
Smoke.
This is all smoke, and
there is nothing to be seen because it's hidden by the smoke. You
right.
see the buildings are behind that.
Yes, so we don't quite know now the extent of damage, but we do know that there are claims being made that the Iranian drone has also hit the runway of a UK military base in Cyprus. Now, I want to go across to that, and we're also going to ask the Director Saab to put those visuals of the other attacks that have been taking place in the Gulf here in this screen behind me. So we're going to come to that in just a few moments, but look at this. This is what Tom Cooper has been trying to show us. This is Cyprus. And where is this UK base?
In southwestern corner, there is this peninsula, and Qatari air base is down here. You can see the runway.
Right.
Probably the rest is probably blotted out, or even if not particularly clear.
Yeah.
But this is a historic British base.
Okay.
Used already since 1930s, 1940s, and until today also used by allied nations, especially, for example, by Americans.
So we're being told that this runway is now being attacked. That's what we've been told. France says it's ready to take part in military operations to protect these Gulf states. Now, why are we talking about these Gulf states? Because if you have a look at this big map that we've got and the visuals, what has been happening since the morning, friends? And I can tell you this, and Tom is here with us, so we're going to discount Karachi for a moment. But in Kuwait, there was an F-15.
F-15E of the US Air Force shot down by Kuwaiti air defenses. The crew of 2 has survived.
So this is a friendly fire.
Yep.
Now, it's strange because the Air Defense Ministry has come out and said that there were several planes that have been struck and several pilots. That's the word they used. That's the phrase they used. So we don't quite know if this is the only one or there were others. Now, this is Jerusalem. Let's go back to those Gulf countries. There is Jerusalem last night. And there is Bahrain that is being peppered by drone attacks. This is
Manama Naval Base, headquarters of the 5th Fleet again.
This is Bahrain. Again, this is, I believe, protests that are happening.
Shia, as I announced today in the morning, during the morning show, sooner or later we have to expect them to become active and to start protesting against the king.
So these could be Shia residents, or they could be resistance, we don't know, that is now protesting against the administration in Bahrain for giving sanctuary to US bases on their land. And then you have the Dubai. Dubai is also being peppered. And you can see these drones that are coming in constantly. And you have the Ahvaz area in Iran. So this is the counterattack. This is
Ahvaz is one of the biggest refineries in the country.
refineries that are being hit. So there's an attempt to also try and degrade the energy sources of Iran. And that's Bahrain, and there's supposedly a Turkey Incirlik US base.
Yes.
So let me quickly go across to David Matlin, who is from I-24 News. He's a host, and we are doing what we have been talking about over the last few days, a joint broadcast. What can you tell us, sir?
Hi. Are you with me here?
Yes, I can hear you. Is that Dan?
Oh, there you are. Sorry. Yes, we are actually under imminent missile alert here again in Tel Aviv. Just as I speak, my phone was starting to buzz in my hand as I'm waiting to come online. So it could be any minute that we get the actual air raid siren to go off behind me. And I apologize ahead of time if I have to run in that eventuality. But the missile struck here just 2 nights ago, not far from where I am, just seconds after the alert started sounding. A woman was sadly killed in that. So it's no joke around here. And I just appreciate all of the attention from you and your viewers, people across India. I closely followed President Modi's visit here, Prime Minister Modi, excuse me, this last week, and it was a very important relationship for us. So we appreciate
David
your
Matlin,
attention to everything going on.
Yes, so whereabouts are you?
I'm in Tel Aviv. I'm in the heart of Tel Aviv right now, in the central part of the city. You know, as we know well, we're in the crosshairs. We're in the center of the crosshairs for much of the Iranian. Their mid to longer range ballistic missiles are the ones very different from the ones being fired at the rest of the Gulf states. But that arsenal of ballistic missiles, like here in central Tel Aviv, we know we're directly in the crosshairs.
Okay, so let me also talk a little bit about the situation there in Israel, and just stay on with me. Dan. I'm going to bring in. Okay, I think we've just lost. Okay, I'm a bit confused. Am I speaking with Dan Ilius, because the director is not telling me, and we have two guests
David
now.
here. I'm David in Tel Aviv. I know you're bringing down a lot of people to talk. I'm David in Tel Aviv. We're down right now, expecting an alert any minute.
Okay, David, thank you so much. I'm very confusing because the director is not telling me who I'm speaking with, and neither is he labeling the pictures. So I'm really sorry about that.
I understand the nature of live breaking news.
Yes, so everything is happening at the same time. So I'm terribly sorry. David, you've been obviously sequestered here for a while. There is a sort of siege, and I've been speaking. Let's split the screen. I want David on one side and I want myself on the other. This is basic television. Come on, Director Saab, let's do it. Come on, let's put this show together. David, I want to have to ask you this, because we're getting reports that from where you are reporting, it's all pretty okay. We're getting reports that, and this is the Iranian media claim, that they've been able to hit a site where Prime Minister Netanyahu has been holding a meeting. Are you getting any independent confirmation of all of this, or is this all disinformation?
Look, since the beginning of this conflict, there has been a steady stream of misinformation and false claims coming out of Tehran, extraordinary as they are at times. No, there's been no confirmed threat to anywhere where the Prime Minister of Israel happens to be located. The main successes, and I say that in air quotes, I mean, it's horrendous, but the only successes Iran has really inflicted on us so far are being able to sneak a missile through into a residential area of Tel Aviv and to Beit Shemesh yesterday, where they hit a neighborhood of homes and the family under the rubble. So unfortunately, those are the only two successful results of the Iranian tactics so far here in Israel. But there's been a lot of rocket fire. There's been a lot of missile fire on us here, a lot of interceptions. Really tense, definitely tense here.
Okay, so you are confirming that there are constant air raid sirens that are going off, and there is a sense of some amount of siege, though you're saying that there has not been too much civilian casualty for the situation to assume a dire proportion.
Look, considering what was possible for this regime to inflict on us, that their plan basically was to burn our whole country down in one way or another from all directions. Yes, this is a relatively successful moment for us to be able to face down what have so far been just over a couple of ballistic missiles, and still an astounding amount of heavy munitions. But yes, the air defenses are robust here. We have the support of the United States and the region and other allies as well, and we're standing firm. People really do adhere to the the different guidelines. We're taking shelter, but it has been steady. Yeah, I mean, every hour, if not more often than that, we've had air raid sirens and missile attacks, drones, and then Hezbollah, yeah, sort of surprising us at 2 in the morning also started firing out of Lebanon to a small degree, at least, relatively.
Okay, thanks very much, David. Thanks very much for taking this time out. We're doing a joint broadcast. We've been doing it over the last few days. It began, of course, with the visit of the Indian Prime Minister to Israel. The conflict in West Asia has entered its third day with escalating violence across the region. In the latest development, Iran has reportedly struck an oil refinery in Saudi Arabia. This has been happening over the last few hours. The Saudi Ministry of Energy announced that a limited fire at the Ras Tunara refinery of, there you can see those pictures in the middle of your screens, of the Saudi Aramco company is under control and has had no impact on oil supply. So that's something that we've been told. Meanwhile, a US F-15 fighter jet crashed in Kuwait. Though the pilot ejected safely, Kuwait authorities are investigating this case. The cause of this incident, Iran claims it has inflicted significant damage on the US assets in the region, including alleged drone strikes on bases in Kuwait and Bahrain and missile attacks on the USS Abraham Lincoln. All of those, of course, we haven't been able to independently verify. But what we can tell you is that that was actually friendly fire. That wasn't an Iranian action that led to that F-15 falling from the sky and the pilot ejecting. And the pilot, as you can see in the middle of your screens, was sequestered in the boot of a car by some sympathizers. Kuwait's Ministry of Defense can also tell you that siren sounds across central Israel and Jerusalem area amid an Iranian ballistic missile attack. Meanwhile, an early warnings also issued in southern Israel as more projectiles are fired. That's the latest coming in. Let's also take you through some of the news reports we've been filing through our affiliates in CNN. And before that, I just want to go straight across to Akanksha for more on information that is coming through. Akanksha, what can you tell us?
Rahul, the images that we are getting in of the attack that's taken place on the US Embassy in Kuwait are going on to indicate that this has been a significant attack because the plumes of smoke billowing out of the embassy, much of it has in fact been caught in fire as well. Kuwait has openly admitted, let me show it to my video journalist Arpit over here. If you can see, this doesn't seem like an ordinary attack. If Arpit can focus on this image that's been released by AFP, this is an attack that took place at the US Embassy in Kuwait. Remember, Kuwait has confirmed that one person has also died in Kuwait. This as they have been intercepting a series of attacks that have been taking place by UAVs, most likely. Number of attacks being done by the UAVs. So remember earlier during the day, this is exactly what Rahul we were discussing, that it doesn't seem like much of a cost for Iran, but they're doing enough damage. They're not only targeting the US assets, whether it is, say, the consulates in Kuwait or say even the one in Karachi. The fact of the matter remains that they have all of these US allies, whether Kuwait.
Why don't you come across here to me? Let's have a quick look at this. Come straight across.
So the target over here, we must keep in mind, are US assets, and I'm sure Tom will also agree with me.
Yes.
These are US assets, and primarily what we are looking at is the US consulate, this one in Kuwait. They've had to shut down the overall embassy right now, and this doesn't seem...
So this is a different angle.
So Tom, if you can also weigh in, it doesn't seem like a UAV orchestrated attack. Could it be? Because you look at the plumes of smoke, there's also enough debris down there. If you look at it over here.
It's only to caution, but you must always, the volume of smoke and the type of smoke always depends on what is burning. Whether this is unspent fuel from the UAV or something was hit, I don't know.
But this is the latest image that has been released by Kuwait at the moment, and that too, if they are targeting
if this
the
video
US
is
consulate, that's
genuine, yes,
trouble.
absolutely. I mean, when the Iranians start to strike even consulates, so this means diplomatic facilities. They haven't done this before.
Okay.
They were reluctant in this regard, even when the Israelis have hit their consulate in Damascus. So this is getting very, very
In fact,
serious.
we are getting in also more information that in Qatar, the naval base of the United States has also been attacked. That's a confirmation that's already come in. So there's a strategic targeting of US.
Go across to Sanjay Suri from Tel Aviv. Sanjay, now tell us a little bit more about how the Israelis and the Americans have come together and what damage are they inflicting in Iran. There have been now a lot of reports about the Iranians using all sorts of technology asymmetric to obviously the weapons that are being used by the US and the Israelis, but what exactly is happening in Iran and what is the assessment in Israel about how long this regime can actually hang in there, so to speak?
Well, the assessment is not exactly upbeat here. The fact is that on day one, Iranian missiles got through to hit Tel Aviv. They killed one person. On day two, they hit a place, Beit Shemesh. As we saw between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, 9 people killed there. There's 10 people killed here already. A lot of these missiles are getting through. There were 2 assumptions that were being made, and both are being questioned within Israel and no doubt within the US as well. First, that air superiority is a given. Nobody was anticipating that Iran could launch that many missiles and they would be unstoppable. It's almost like they're hitting at will. An embassy here, a compound there, a base here, a mall here, this country, that country. There's a secondary question here about their choice of targets. There are questions there. But the point is that whatever targets they are picking, they're able to launch missiles and hit a lot of them. So the protection that was assumed, the 3-layer protection certainly in Israel, is not quite working as expected, and other countries are even less protected. Given also that there's been weeks of preparation in anticipation of this. Iran has said again and again they will widen the attack, they will hit at Arab countries hosting the US. And these were warnings made loud and clear repeatedly. And even so, these places are unprotected. Iranian missiles are getting through. This certainly would be worrying for Israel and the US. At the second level, Rahul, there has been always, from the very start, from the very planning, a fundamental limitation that whatever Israel and the US can do would be from the air. Even there, it's not quite supremacy. But then, there has never been a plan that Israel and the US will get in on the ground in Tehran. Without that, how could you get a regime change? Yes, you can take people out, they have done that. But they did that last year. If you remember, so many leading commanders from the army, so many political leaders were just assassinated, decapitated, very precise strikes. But then somebody else came along. In the Iranian system now, there are 4 layers. You kill one, automatically a second takes over and so on. So they have prepared for this. And they are continuing to resist, they're continuing to attack and to defend as well. All this has not been a part of the Israeli and the US calculation. The calculation was that you hit them hard, they will lose their top, they will lose their nerve, they will surrender. But surrender to who? Who is there on the ground for anyone to surrender to? Who will the IRGC surrender to? That is a limitation, and it's a limitation on the ground, and that limitation is going to come home to Israel and the US more and more forcefully in days to come.
Okay, so viewers, now behind me, we're going to show you. Yeah, Tom, you wanted to make a quick point.
The point is this. The Typhoon interceptors of the Royal Air Force based at Qatari are flying air defense missions in the area.
Right.
It means that they are flying air defense missions in support of Israel. And of course, this is the reason for Iranians to consider Qatari Air Base, British Qatari Air Base on
So
Cyprus.
you're saying that the British Typhoons
Yes.
are flying operations
Yes.
on behalf of Israel to perhaps intercept or take out targets?
To take out UAVs.
To take out
Yeah.
UAVs.
No, they're not moving further east than central Jordan, arguably. So
Right.
they're not involved in direct strikes on Iran. But from Iranian point of view, and this is what I'm trying to explain all the time, there is also an Iranian point of view in this war. There is not just an Israeli or US point of view.
Yes.
From Iranian point of view, they are defending Israel. Therefore, they are participating in this conflict on the Israeli side. Therefore, legitimate target.
A
This is how
legitimate
the
target.
Iranians think, you know.
That's the Iranians thinking, because anyone who's helping, of course, Israel and the United States is fair game as far as Iran is concerned, because they have to defend their borders and their sovereignty. So that's the other side that Tom has been sort of stressing. And that's why, viewers, it's not going to end this particular conflict in a day or so, specifically when you already have the Iranian regime saying that we are not going to negotiate. Now, here are pictures from Iran, viewers. I can't read the language, but I can tell you that these are some areas that have been struck in Iran. Hopefully, we label these pictures. I'm still awaiting confirmation as to where this location is. Okay, it's an oil pipeline in Iran. Where in Iran? Can the director tell me that? Would you know? Okay, I don't think we have that, but okay. So viewers, that's something that we're being saying. Iran International has showed a fire at the Ahvaz oil pipeline following an explosion, and that's what we're being told. These are pictures from that. You can see the plumes of smoke. These are usually associated with burning oil. Are there other pictures that we have from Iran that give us a sense of where the strikes have taken place? Do we have a map of Iran that I can refer to with Tom? That's the map of Iran there.
This is map
here
of Iran, yes. Principal oil fields in Iran are here in Khuzestan province, in southwest of the country.
This is what we're talking about. Okay.
Therefore, there are two pipelines, so-called Y pipeline, leading to the Kark Island in northern Persian Gulf. This is the major export terminal.
Okay.
It means all the huge, giant tankers are coming up to Kark and loading oil here. And then, because of the experiences from the Iran-Iraq war, when the US Navy had it easy, for example, to stop or to disturb the transport of Iranian oil, they have constructed another oil pipeline that is leading to Chabahar.
Right.
So in order to avoid being bottled up in the Persian Gulf, but back then, Iraqis were attacking Karg, and so on and so on. So the story is a little bit longer. So there were always disruptions in Iranian oil exports. But the country was, of course,
so this is the Chabahar oil pipeline that we know, viewers. Chabahar is very strategically important also for India, because, as you know, here is Gwadar. Here somewhere is the Gwadar port.
Here.
There it is.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah. You can see that. Yes. So that's Gwadar, viewers, right there. And Chabahar is very close also. So we have this opening up. There you can see. I don't know if Gwadar will come out, because maybe it's one of those sites. There's Chabahar
and Gwadar.
And Gwadar is there. So that's Gwadar and that's Chabahar. This is the area where that pipeline comes out to. And that's been built as a redundancy so that Iran doesn't get stuck in that particular area. Yes.
If you permit me a little bit, a few additional explanations.
Yes.
Here and here. So we have Chabahar here.
Yes.
And we have Gwadar here. Gwadar is meanwhile the biggest airport in Pakistan, constructed by the Chinese. Chabahar was originally constructed during the Shah's time in the 1970s, but never completed. There is a big airbase nearby, and the Americans have bombed this airbase. This is meanwhile known. There are satellite photographs. And I said the pipeline is coming down, where the Iranians could continue exporting their oil, regardless what is happening over here. So it doesn't matter for the Iranians. They do not care whether the Strait of Hormuz is open or not. They can continue exporting oil unless somebody bombs this pipeline and cuts it off. And then comes the next point. Iranians are experts in repairing pipelines. During the Iran-Iraq war, they have learned to make fantastic things with pipelines. Therefore, even if they are bombed, if their pipelines get hit by whoever, they are going to be very quick in repairing them.
Okay, so viewers, these are the nitty-gritties of war. We're getting information, and Tom is breaking it down for us. We're also getting reports that there has been, now, Israeli media speculations on PM Netanyahu is Iranian propaganda. So very clearly this has been. And we've also been told that the French president has announced that France is going to increase its military presence in the Gulf. Now, where are the French bases? Would you know? Where are some of these French bases? We're going to try and get Tom to have a look at that. But these are the news updates that are coming in. The French foreign minister, he's saying, ready to defend Gulf states and Jordan. Macron says France to boost military presence in the Gulf. More and more of the Western European countries are coming to the aid of the US and Israel to try and finish this particular offensive very quickly to get the Iranians to basically step down and come to the table, because the longer this war continues, there's going to be disruption in oil supplies, there's going to be disruption in travel, and that's going to have an economic cost. So basically, fundamentally, you have a situation going where right now the entire Western world and this Five Eyes Alliance, etc., they're all coming together. France is not part of that, but definitely adding and lending its muscle. Dan Ilyus, MP from Israel, is joining us. Now, he's a member of parliament, and of course, Prime Minister Modi has, of course, addressed that parliament. So thank you very much, Mr. Ilyus. I know that these are stressful times, but give us a sense of how things are going from Israel's perspective right now.
So first of all, I just want to share with your viewers that I was right now in the shelter because there has been massive bombing in the last few minutes in Israel, including in Jerusalem, where I'm speaking to you from. And so I was just with my family in the shelter. And so, yes, there is some difficulty. War is difficult. It's difficult for everyone. It's difficult on our children, on our spouses. It's difficult for us, of course. But having said that, I have to say that I think that the performance of the Israeli military and the American military has been tremendous. From the start of this offensive, we have reached many of our goals in a very, very short time. And I think that what we're seeing here is the cooperation between America and Israel being a real good news for the free world, because this regime that we are fighting is a purely evil regime. And the message that we're giving here to the world is that the free nations, the free countries are ready to fight for their freedom, and that when such a regime threatens us and calls for our destruction, that we will know to ensure that they are unable to do that and not unable to fulfill the promises that they've made. And so that's what we're seeing right now.
So I'm going to ask you, Dan Ilyus, you said that there's heavy activity over Jerusalem. Can you extrapolate? Can you tell us what exactly is the situation on the ground, number one? Number two, I also want to ask you, is there bipartisan support for the action that has been undertaken by the Netanyahu regime against, or the government rather, against the Iranian regime?
So to answer your first question first, there has been a barrage of rockets to Israel as a whole and Jerusalem more specifically in the last 30 minutes or so. And so that's what we've seen right now. It's too early for me to tell you what the result of this barrage of rocket is, but it has been larger than what we've seen until today. And we expect this to continue in the next few days. But we in Israel are very confident of our air defense systems and our ability to stop these barrage of rockets. Now, when you ask about bipartisan support, I want to be incredibly clear. There is full bipartisan support for this military offense in Israel. Coalition and opposition are completely united when it comes to this offensive. We understand the threat that Iran poses not only to Israel, but to the free world as a whole, and also to the Iranian people. Also, we know that the Iranian regime has murdered tens of thousands of Iranians. That's what it's...
Okay, I think we've lost Dan Ilyus there. But we're also being told that the USS McFaul has launched a salvo of around 9 BGM, 109 Tomahawk cruise missiles at targets in Iran, and those are the pictures that are coming through. Tom, what can you tell us about this? What is this big ship?
BGM, this is a destroyer of Arleigh Burke class, and you see it's launching. It's Tomahawk land attack missiles, claims from its vertical missile launcher, vertical launch cells.
Right.
It is similar weapon like they are also on warships of the Indian Navy. Mm-hmm. Essentially, it's a tube, and then the missile is fired out of it.
And vertically, you're saying?
Vertically, yes.
I see. Okay.
So regardless what kind of missile, they can load SAMs, they can load clamps, and anti-ship missiles from it. The Tomahawk that we see climbing, There are new variants which are very dark, which is unusual. Usually, at earlier times they were light gray in color, and they seem to have also forward swept wings, not anymore straight wings like at earlier times.
So the USS McFall, tell us a little bit about the McFall. Is it a frigate or what is it?
It's a guided missile destroyer.
It's a destroyer.
Yes.
And how many of
with an Aegis air defense system, which is actually the most advanced air defense system on the world, can cover some 400 by 400 kilometers. It is an excellent command center as well. And essentially, it's very hard to hide anything from it.
So how many destroyers have been deployed by the United States in the Eastern Mediterranean?
In the Eastern Mediterranean, it was 2 the last I've checked. That was 2 days ago,
Okay.
excuse me.
Yeah.
But there are another 3 or 4 in the Gulf of Oman.
That's fascinating, viewers. So a lot of firepower with the Aegis missile defense system, which is basically airtight. He's saying one of the most advanced in the world. And that is on this USS McFall. So barrage of Tomahawk cruise missiles launched vertically from this launch tube, and it's going to go straight across to Iran. And
what might also be interesting for viewers, firstly, the ship's construction, as you see, everything is inclined. It means this is stealth construction design.
Oh, it's a stealth
exactly like in
destroyer.
Indian Navy. Yes,
right, so it can't be detected by radar that easily.
Not that well. It appears as a very small vessel. That's the point.
I
so
see.
You think this is some fishery boat or whatever, you know, if you detect it with usual radar. So that is one point. The other point is that I guess that both of destroyers in Eastern Mediterranean, they are involved in the first opening strikes on Iran 2 nights ago. And now they have reloaded their vertical launch cells, and they are now firing additional missiles.
And the missiles that are firing are precision munition?
Yes, Tomahawk is GPS supported, plus INS, plus there are rumors, at least as far as I recall, that they have terminal electro-optical guidance, which will mean camera, which is then linked via satellite to somebody, whether on ship or somewhere else, who can then steer the missiles straight into specific point.
Well, so this is going to be a precision strike. On what target, we don't know, but we'll probably get news in a little while, viewers. The USS McFall launching a salvo of around 9 BGM-109 Tomahawk cruise missiles at targets in Iran. The offensive is on, and this is going to be a protracted battle. We're going to take a very short break, viewers. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
That's exactly the point that we've also been discussing, and Tom was also saying that the target is meant to be these US assets in these ally countries, but because these are densely populated areas, they are inadvertently hitting civilian targets, because if civilians were indeed the target, the casualties could have been in hundreds.
That is, to use the American terminology, collateral damage.
Right, right. Lieutenant General D.P. Pandey, the sheer escalatory nature of this, as Ambassador Dogra was also highlighting, they've gone on to ask for Germany's help. They're also trying to involve France over here, because, say, UK has already reacted. In fact, Sir Keir Starmer also spoke about their fleet being involved. But if NATO were to get involved, what is the end game of this war? If NATO and these Middle Eastern US allies were to get involved, what happens?
So look, while
and
I
Iran
think,
has already indicated that they are not looking towards any negotiations now.
Yeah, Kanchal, it's too early for Iranians to talk about negotiations. It's just, again, this is something, not a war which is being fought between two street people. That also goes for a very long time. We are fighting a war with two military powers and two nations and two ideologies which are totally disparate and different. And it's about survival of Iranian regime's thought process, which is absolutely contrarian to this thing. While the Gulf states have already changed their thought process and they have aligned to the Western ideology to a great extent, but Iranians are totally polar opposite, and they have never changed their views for the last about 45-50 years. They remain where they remain. So to believe that is going to just crumble, IRGC is not just not a slap dog onto a stream that they can wish away. They will fight they will control, and this will go on for some time. But I just want to add both the countries, the Israelis and Americans, and a lot of time people are saying that Trump has put Israel first this time. I don't think so. I think it's a war of Americans with Iran, and it is something to do with the Chinese. It is just not about Iran
Yes.
itself.
Yes,
So
I'm
let's
glad you said
put
that.
out. Yeah, so I think I told last time also on your this thing on your channel, but American immediate political objective is to change the strategic orientation of Iran. They should give up the ballistic missile systems, and because that was threat not only to America but more importantly to Gulf states eventually. So if you recall, while Saudi Crown Prince